Okay, Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Isai. Today, all good. Today, I think it would be appropriate, within the context of everything that we've been discussing in the world of Rav Kook, I think it's appropriate to talk about Iran. It might be more appropriate by tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows where we are holding in this insane world? But suffice it to say that Chazal have a lot to say. The Nevi'im had a lot to say. Throughout the Midrashim and the Gemaras, certainly in the Zohar HaKadosh, there's a lot to say about many of the ancient nations of the world. And amongst the ancient nations of the world that we have contended with in our long history, probably the one that is most there today is Iran. Of course, Iran wasn't always called Iran. That was the name given to it like 100-ish years ago. Before that, there was Persia, right? Paras. That we've had a relationship with Paras for a very long time. Paras, of course, is the second of the four Golios, the four exiles since the days of Churban Bayis Rishon. Chazal tell us that already this is in Bereshis Rabbah, the very first psukim of Bereshis is already a reference to the four Golios. Chazal tell us that Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz v'ha'aretz ha'yisad tayu v'avoyu v'chayshach al pnei ta'im. Tayu zu Bavel. Boihu Paras u'madai. Chayshach is Yavan. Al pnei ta'im zu Edom. That Gemara's Memra of Rish Lakish tells you a lot about the nature of Paras, which is Boihu. What's the riot that Paras is Boihu? Because the pasuk says Vayavhilu lahaviyas Haman. It was a rush. It was this angst and excitement and hurry to bring Haman. Vayavhilu, without clear thought about what's going on and what's happening. Paras is that which is boihu. It's a galus of upheaval. It's a galus of confusion. There's an open question, and I say open because the Maharal leaves it open. And there's two sides to this. We talk about four Golios. What happened to the Golos of Bavel? What happened to Bavel? They got subsumed by Paras. To a certain extent, we extricated ourselves from Golos Bavel. At the end of the 70 years, that which Bavel did to us was undone to a certain extent. And Bavel ceased to exist. With regards to Yavan, the Greeks, we have a story, the Hanukkah story, where we defeated the Greeks. And that was the end of the Greek Empire. To a large extent, Purim celebrates the end of Bavel, and Hanukkah celebrates the end of Yavan. What about Golos Edom? So that we're still living through, right? Golos Edom we're still living through. Good. And then you have to ask the question, well, what about Golos Paras? Did we ever extricate ourselves from that Malchus? And the answer is formally no, we didn't. It was the Persians that gave us permission to build the second Beis HaMikdash. We did it with their Rishus. Koresh and Daryavesh, they gave us permission to go back and build Eretz Yisrael, build the second Beis HaMikdash. The location of Malchus Paras was Bavel, but there were no more Babylonians, meaning that's the place. But there's nobody Babylonian. It became entirely Persian. And we never fully managed to escape that. Which means that to a certain extent, we have two Malchus that we haven't dealt with yet. And that's the Malchus of Paras and the Malchus of Edom. And then the Maharal asks an interesting question, which is, what about Yishmael? What about Galus Yishmael? We're dealing with a lot of Galus Yishmael today. Now, Galus Yishmael, Chazal did not speak about because it wasn't there yet. Right. That's, don't tell Tucker and Candace that it wasn't there yet. But it wasn't there yet, right? We were there first. I don't know if anybody knows that, right? We were there first. Chazal spoke a lot about Edom. Yishmael was a bunch of tribes in Saudi Arabia. There was nothing else to talk about. By the 600s, 700s, now you had something called Islam. But the Maharal asked the question, well, what about Galus Yishmael? So he gives two answers, this is the open end of the question. Option number one is really Galus Edom is both Yishmael and Edom. Where you have psukim in Tanakh and Gemaras and Midrashim and Zohar that all connect the relationship between Yishmael and Edom. Because Esav marries the daughter of Yishmael, and that eventually turns into that union of the two. Option number one. And then option number two is Galus Yishmael is ultimately what becomes of Paras. Meaning that the two nations that we have to deal with at the end of time will be Edom and Yishmael. Mishpacha. Right? That's Mishpacha. We have to deal with that at the end. The Vilna Gaon writes similarly, if you take a look in Evan Shleima, I think in Perikid Aleph, where he discusses the fact that the same way that in order to get wheat from the husks, from the shells, so Chazal described that there are three different husks that you have to, three different clippers that you have to peel off the wheat. And those three are representative of Edom, Yishmael, and Erev Rav, which is related to Avram. Getting back to the world of Avram Avinu means dealing with Yishmael. Getting back to the world of Yitzchak means dealing with Esav. And then developing who Yaakov is supposed to be means getting rid of Erev Rav, cleaning that up, which is the hardest. But suffice it to say that Chazal have a lot to say about our relationship to Edom and our relationship to Yishmael, and a lot to say about our relationship to Persia.
Is there a significance that these are overlapping golios as opposed to sequential? That you would kind of, the way we generally think about it, they're sequential
Yes.
golios, but the way you're framing it now is they're kind of overlapping.
They are. They always have been. Meaning, historically, they've always been overlapping. It is not one Malchus ends and another one begins with like a seamless. Even the beginning of the Megillah, you see that like Achashverosh is trying to cement his Malchus, is trying to solidify it. It's not the Mishnah that he makes at the end is when like he's finally finished that project, and that's the Gemara at the beginning of Megillah. He finally finishes figuring out like how to end it, but it's not even over yet because Vashti is still. The end of Bavel is really the death of Vashti. That's like where it's over. But there's a lot of overlap in between. One is kind of swallowed by the next, which is swallowed by the next. And the ideology of Yishmael, certainly, we've seen in the last few hundred years, has become the ideology of Persia. That's for sure true, right? So all of this is part of the story. And to that end, we're going to take a look at a piece of Rav Kook relating to a Gemara in Maseches Brachos. If you take a look in the sheet that you have in front of you, you see the Gemara is at the top, and this is a piece of Ein Ayah, which is one of Rav Kook's earliest farm. He began this while he was still in Europe. This was a project that, L'tzarenu Arav, he never finished. Rav Kook wanted very much to write a perush on all of the Agaritas of Shas. He got through Brachos, most of Shabbos, and then like a couple of bits and pieces at the end of Shabbos Volume 2 on different Masechtas. But Brachos, we have most of it, and he writes as follows. If you take a look inside of the Gemara at the top of the page, the four lines down from the top, end of the line, Tanya Amar Rabban Gamliel. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Tanya, at the top of the page, 4 lines down in the bold text at the top. 3 words from the end of the line. Tanya Amr Rabban Gamliel, says Rabban Gamliel, B'shloisha dvarim ani ohev es haParsim. I love the Persians for three things. I love the Persians for three things. It's this sheet, for those that, this one. Now, if that's not the one that you have, we'll make sure that you have it. Oh, you got it? There we go. Cover. Feel free to hand those out. Go for it. Okay. Got an extra, we need an extra one on this side. Yeah? All right. So he says, for three things, there's three reasons that I love the Persians. What do I love them for? Hem tsnuim ba'achilasam. They eat in a modest way. Tsnuim bebeis hakise. They use the restroom in a modest way. But tsnuim bedavar acher. And they are modest in their bedroom activities. Meaning, the Persians are nationally, culturally, religiously, exceedingly modest people. They are people that believe very much in a sense and a sentiment of modesty, of the dignity of the human body, and the importance of ensuring that is not animalistic, that the most animalistic things that people do are done in the most menschlich way possible. That's what Rabban Gamliel says. A lot of covered for the Persians. Now, by the way, this has been noted by some of the people that like to scream and shout and yell at Jewish people, that the Persians, Yishmael, who have adopted them, or they've adopted Yishmael, that they're much more tzanua than us. It's true. It's true in the Western world, certainly. America is not a very tzanua place. And Iran is a very tzanua place. Now, they happen to be like genocidal, murderous terrorists, but they're very tzanua. They kill people for not being tzanua, which was the protests in the last season of protests for Iran. Rabbi Gamliel says, I love the Persians for these midas. And then comes the rebuttal. Yeah?
Do we have any idea where these midas come from?
Yeah, we're going to explain it. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. But first we got to get to the part two of the statement or argument, or how this relates. We'll discuss how that works. The Gemara quotes a pasuk in Yeshaya in the 13th parak. Ani tzivisi lemekudashai. I have commanded to those that are my sanctified ones. Rashi tells us, "B'mapalas Bavel, ksiv ani tzivisi es malchei prasum adai lavoy lahashchisa." I've commanded my mikudashim, the sanctified ones, the Persians, to go and destroy the Babylonians. That the Persians are called Kadosh, holy Persians, right? That's what the Ayatollahs think. They have a riot from the Gemara in Brachas. Mekudashai. Tani Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, Elu HaParsim, who are the Mekudashai, the holy ones, the sanctified ones? Elu HaParsim, HaMizumanim u'Mekudashim leGehenim. They are mizuman, they are prepared, they are invited, u'Mekudashim, and dedicated leGehenim, to burn in hell. Okay, let's talk. What does all of this mean? What is going on here? How do we understand our relationship with Pras and with Yishmael to a large extent that is so much a part of the story? From these two statements of Rabbi Gamliel and Rav Yosef. Zok Rav Kook, take a look where you see the Kuf Yud. He points out here as Kuf Yud at the bottom on the left hand side. B'shloisha dvarim aviv ani esaparsim, etc. Says Aboishes v'atznius b'tzorchem habehemiyim hu ois al his paschus malas odem b'sichloi utchunosav. That when a person engages with their animalistic desires in a way that is refined and is menschlich, that is indicative of their exceptional intelligence and development. And it is not for nothing that historically Persians have been incredibly innovative, creative, forward-thinking people. Even in as much as Persians for thousands of years have been tsanua. They have not been frivolous as the West has been, as the world of Edom is. The world of Pras is one that is very tsanua, and yet at the same time, very intelligent. So Rabbi Gamliel says that this is a wonderful midah. It's an excellent thing. And the pasuk indicates that they are called Mikudashim. And Rav Yosef says that it means that they're going to burn in hell. That's what it means, they're Mikudash. What does it mean to be Mikudash and to burn in hell? This is Rav Kook's discussion here. Take a look on Kuf Yud Aleph, Kuf Yud Aleph. And it's Yivezin Mikudashai, Amr Rav Yosef, Elo Parsim She Mikudashim Mezumanim Legehanam. He explains as follows. Ki ha'amim shehem eproim va'oimde b'shavim adreges his paschos ha'enashus. The nations that are translated into common parlance, that are vildechayas, nations that are disgusting, nations that are base, nations that are that are on the lowest level of human development. When they do terrible, immoral, murderous, licentious, violent things, there's a justification for them in that they're vildechayas. Meaning, when a vildechaya does a vildechaya thing, so you look at them and you go, okay, they are not excusing it, but it makes sense. It makes sense. Meaning, we all understand that there's a difference between Iran and Hamas in terms of the people. They all want to kill us. But the people that grew up in Iran have universities and academia and they're running a nuclear program. At least they were. Now it's shelved, hopefully indefinitely. Hamas is a bunch of savages in a desert. They're very, very different people. When Hamas does savage things, they're a bunch of savages. It makes sense. But when Iran does savage things, so this is very different. Educated, intelligent, refined people doing savage things, barbaric things, very different, says Rav Kook. Aval am minumas ubaki behilchas ha'chaim shel derech eretz ha'enashi karoi, people that have manners and know how to live and know what the correct way of acting, what's appropriate. Harikona loy haskala enashis v'chayev hu la'akir erech ha'tzedek v'mishar. What that means is that a person with manners and with intellect needs to know how to live a just and moral life. They should know. They should know better. And then, when despite all of that advancement and development, they do terrible, savage, immoral things, like the Persians that devoured the Jewish people and chased us tirelessly. When you are a refined, intelligent, progressive, forward-thinking nation that is anti-Semitic and barbaric, then you are Mekudash and invited to take your seat at the table of Gehenna. That's what Chazal is telling us. That is the future of Iran. The future of Persia.
Sounds very similar to the Germans.
100%. Meaning, a nation that is so well developed in this ideology of how to live and what to do and how to think and how to behave, and science and technology and politics and literature and math and all of these beautiful, wonderful things, you become this? Oof. Oy vavoy. So, we have a complex understanding of Persia, which is they are elevated, beautiful, wonderful. And much worse as a result of that. Meaning a person that is a despicable, decrepit, savage, barbaric human being with a PhD is a much worse person than the person that has no education, no culture. That person, you don't have morals because you're a savage. But to not have morals with a PhD, oy vavoy. And then Rav Kook explains a little further. Because the idea of mezuman and mekudash, those are two interesting phraseologies. It says, Lashon hekdesh v'hazmana. What does hekdesh and hazmana, sanctification and invitation, preparation mean? It says, Neufel biyoser al davar haba mitzad ha'askama haretzonis v'loi mitzad ha'teva. When you're makdish something, in halacha, those that are just finished, meaning to be mekadesh something is an action. It's something that you do with intention. You invite with intention. You sanctify with intention. It's not something that happens naturally. The natural world is not something that screams kedusha. The natural world screams tahara. That's a separate sugya. The natural world is tahar. That's why something that is connected to the ground is impervious to tumah, right? That's why you need to, if it's mechubar l'karka, it's not mekabel tumah. Not to get into the halachas, but tahara is something that is part of the natural world. Kedusha is not. Kedusha is something that people make. People make kedusha. It says, it comes as a result of what people do, understandings and agreements. It says, the natural nations, nations that are natural, you don't talk about them being invited to Gehenna. They haven't prepared themselves for it. They haven't prepared, meaning you have to prepare yourself. It says, they can also explain it away. The Persians, with all of their erudition and manners, I think they should know what's right and wrong. And the fact that they are doing evil is because they chose it. It wasn't an inclination. They have controlled their base desires. You're talking about a very well-developed nation. They're not savages. They're not barbarians. These are people that have developed a philosophy and an ideology of doing evil. They've chosen this. This is something that has been developed. It's not simply that they gave in to their desires. No, they want this. So they've turned evil to take the place of that which is right and good. They have decided this. This is something that they have made a conscious decision and a choice to do. Utilizing their freedom of choice for evil, and therefore, since they have chosen this, they are now invited to Gehenna. Meaning, Gehenna is prepared for them. It is awaiting them. And then he has a phrase here that comes from the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, in the third parak, K'chol goyim shachachei Elokim, like those nations that forget Hashem. That's the lashon of the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva. And now he's medayik in that lashon of shachachei Elokim. Why is it that the Rambam refers to these nations as people that forget God? Because in order to forget something, you need it first to... You have to know it first. You can't forget things that you didn't know. So he says like this, you forget only the things that you should have remembered. That's why you say, ooh, I forgot. Well, it means you should have known. You should have known better. You should have remembered. Somebody that knows that it's appropriate for them to know, that has the scholarship and the education and the experience to know what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. Which is to do that which is kind and that which is righteous and that which is just. To express morality in the world. Like the pasuk says in Navi, that you have to know Hashem, Haskel, become intelligent, v'yadosi, and then know me. And this is classic Rambam philosophy, that the way to experience knowledge of God is through our intellectual faculties. It's not simply an experience, it is an intellectual pursuit. And if you are a refined intellectual, with intelligence and with manners, so the Navi says, Haskel v'yadosi, Ka'ani Hashem oiseh chesed mishpat u'tzedakah. Know me through your intelligence and then do chesed, mishpat, and tzedakah. That's what you know of me. That's what I want. Ve'amar, the pasuk says, v'asa mishpat tzedakah. Do these things. Do justice, do kindness, do truth. Pursue these things. Halohi hadasasi. That's what it means to know me. To get to know Hashem means to do these things. Ve'im hachanasam lezeh. And if, despite their preparation and their capacity to achieve this, they are going to throw it all away and become what they have become. Without chesed and without mishpat and without tzedakah, that's what it means, those that forget Hashem. That, says Rav Kook, is current events. That's what's happening now. We're talking about a nation that should have known better. They should have done better. And the fact that they knew what they knew, and that they've been around for as long as they've been around, and that they are people with tznius, they are people with sanctity, and with dignity, and with education, and with scholarship, and erudition, and all of these beautiful, wonderful things that Rabbi Gamliel says, I love about them. I love these guys. They do such great things. We can learn from them. Seventh Parak of Brachos, they have all these discussions about the table manners of the Persians. They eat in a way that's refined, and they talk in a way that's refined. If refined people choose this to be their ideology, it means that they are mekudesh mzum for Gehenna. Which means that they have prepared themselves for that level of demise. For that level of being torn to pieces. That's the end of Persia.
Don't they daven 3-5 times a day?
Yes.
They still do that.
And yet, that's the point. Daven as much as you want. And be as much of a tzaddik as you want. To whatever version of God you think is God. But this is how you live? Oy vavoy. When somebody that is supposed to, through their own intellectual capacity, becomes that. Mikudashim u'mezumanim legehenim. That becomes the end of Persia. Which is what we're seeing. What we're seeing now. Which means that what we might be witnessing now is that which Mordechai and Esther did not get to see. What we might be witnessing now is what Daniel envisioned, the end of Paras. It might be this. This might be Adar. Adar is seeing this. And Rav Kook explains exactly what the Midah Keneged Midah and how the whole thing operates. When you rise yourself up to that place, and you still turn into that, oy vavoy. Mikudashim u'mezumanim legehenim. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, we should be zeicha to see it b'mher b'yameinu.